Is Stellaris DLC worth the price? I remember when I saw the DLC for Stellaris released many years ago. I took one look at the price and was like, no, 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 no. I saw the deceivingly short list of features and was not interested. However, as I played the game, I learned more and more about it, and I realized that the features in that short list would actually have enhanced the game a great deal in most cases. I have a lot of Stellaris DLC now that I have been creating Stellaris content for years. So I'm going to tell you how I decide on whether or not to buy DLC in a way that you can follow to decide for yourself. There are simple questions you can ask yourself to almost immediately determine if a piece of content is worth saving your money for. After I share the questions, I will share what I thought about most, but not all, of the current Stellaris DLC. The price of most Stellaris content released has been very controversial in the community, especially with today's problems and economic issues. Others are happy to support the devs in any way they can, or feel that the content has a fair and balanced price. It is a very polarizing issue, I feel. I know a lot of people that if the content costs less, they would try the DLC. I have also heard others explain that the developers need to be compensated for their service just like any of us. So as long as they do a good job, they should be encouraged. I also know people who have purchased the DLC year after year and own it all and have zero regrets. Personally, I do believe that while some DLC should be priced lower, there are many DLCs in Stellaris that have more than proven their worth, and I am glad to have bought them regardless of the price. However, I have been disappointed a couple times. But what about Stellaris DLC in general? What is my overall opinion of that? When I evaluate a DLC's worth, I ask myself these things. How much playtime did I get from this DLC? For example, I can honestly say that I got at least 100 hours of playtime so far out of the Utopia DLC expansion. I had a commenter mention that when they evaluate the true worth of a game, they take how much they paid for it and subtracted the amount of hours they spent playing the game. The result is the true worth of that content. I believe this is a great way to determine a DLC's worth. So in this example, I got around 100 hours of playtime and counting from a DLC that cost me 20 bucks. So that tells me Utopia was very worth the price I paid for it. Conversely, you could have a AAA game cost $70 but only give you 10 to 20 hours of playtime. There are many titles out there that do this. I would not consider those games worth the cost, especially if they have no replay value. Another question to ask is, did this DLC add replay value to the base game? Synthetic Dawn was a perfect example of a Stellaris DLC that added a ton of replay value with a short list of features. It not only changed the game fundamentally, but also changed the meta for a long time, adding a ton more potential build combos and outcomes for players to try out and explore. One DLC that unfortunately did not for me was Nemesis. I just never felt like that DLC gave me reasons to start a new map or try new things. However, this does not mean that you or everyone else will have the same experience, but to me, I felt like my games were not any different with or without the DLC. One thing you can also ask is, did or will the DLC give me more playstyle options or change the game fundamentally in a positive way? Trade was pretty boring in my opinion when I first launched Stellaris, but when I got Megacorp, it made me really think about trade and allowed me to play with many different builds centered around trade, particularly the Criminal Syndicate Civic. Also, Ecumenopolis Worlds definitely changed the later part of the game in terms of potential strategy and power. However, I did not feel that way about the Humanoid Species Pack. Though it was a lower priced DLC, Clone Army was not enough to really change the game for me or to encourage me to try new playstyles. So another question, how much of the content that was or would be added actually make an impact on the game? Overlord, like it or hate it, made an enormous amount of impact on the game. It introduced orbital rings, which are arguably the most impactful megastructure an empire can build. It gave much more depth to subjects and far more options. it was also a must-have for those who like Sonic Ascension. We're talking Teachers of the Shroud. And Hyper Relays put a stop to a lot of the computer's antics during combat. Conversely, and this is just my opinion as a non-RP guy, I felt like the story packs would not have impacted my playstyle or my game at all. So to me, this is me, that DLC was not worth buying for me. More event pop-ups? No thanks. That doesn't mean that, if you like the event pop-ups, if you like to read the events and stuff, if you like RP and story, then that will most likely be the opposite for you. You will absolutely consider getting that DLC for sure. And that's fair. Moving on. The last question, are the developers doing a good job? Meaning, do they deserve my support? This is pretty simple. If a waiter or waitress does a good job, you would feel more inclined to tip them, right? Same as you would support your favorite YouTuber, for example. I feel it is no different with buying DLC for a developer who does a good job and has delivered free playtime again and again. I want to vote with my wallet for that kind of performance, especially lately when more and more developers are caring less and less about us players. Conversely, I have refused to even play a game such as Battlefield simply because I hate the direction the developers of that game are going in. I canceled my WoW subscription years ago because of this and stopped playing StarCraft for this reason. Looking at you, Blizzard. So you asked yourself these questions. If you can answer yes to most of these questions, then the piece of content you're evaluating is probably worth it, regardless of the quantity of features the info lists down. In many cases, I would say buy the DLC and give it a try. Example, if a game or DLC is $30, but you can easily get a ton of hours of playtime out of it, play it over and over again and never get bored. See it have a positive impact on the current game state, the features are impactful, and the developers have been active with the community and have been treating their player base well, then that should be a good addition to your collection. Conversely, if the game costs $20, but I see myself only playing it once, and I'm not really interested in using most of the features, then I probably should not get that, especially if the devs either disappeared or are engaging in anti-consumer practices. So again, the questions are, how much playtime is projected? What's the potential replay value? Will it change the game positively? Would the features make an impact? And do you like the devs? So how do I feel about Stellaris DLC as a whole? Overall, I believe that much of the Stellaris DLC overall measures up when asked all these questions, and I recommend them to any player playing Stellaris. If you do not know where to start, I would start with Utopia. That DLC is a sure thing. Then, once you're comfortable, do research and explore the other expansions that interest you. One final thought. I would rather pay good developers this way and support this monetization model than the monetization model that are in a lot of modern games, especially those filled with microtransactions, which at this time, Stellaris thankfully does not have. That's it. Hope you liked the video. If you like this, go ahead and leave a like. Subscribe if you want to see more. Comment and let me know what you think. Join and become a member if you would like to invest in the channel. You can also check out my live stream or Discord if you want to hang out with me. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.